All right, welcome back to the Run It Up challenge on DraftKings. We had a pretty decent night last night in the NFL. This is day four, so this is actually, I believe, just our second set of results, though. So we started with $100. We had a really bad night in the NBA on day one where we lost the whole 10% that we put up, so we were down to $90. Then what I did is I entered them into NFL contests, and obviously because they run Sunday, Monday, we had to wait 2 days for the results. But they're in. The results are in. So we did bounce back, and we were able to make a little money. I thought we got pretty unlucky day one in the NBA to lose the entire 10%. There was a mistake on my part in the contest that I got in, and I wasn't happy with that. But I think we got a little lucky last night, and you'll see this is the NFL 5K play action, which is the $2 GPP on DraftKings. 600 positions paid. We slid in just in the money at 562, so we had very little room for error here. We got okay showings from our guys that we had last night. We had Marquise Wilson and Martellus Bennett. Wilson for being $3,000 to get 10.6 points is really great. Um, Only three receptions though and 16 yards, so that touchdown he's caught a touchdown late in the game, and it really salvaged his day. Without that, it would have been pretty upsetting. Martellus Bennett, basically the 2 point conversion salvaged his day because he didn't have a big day either. Just a tough night from Jay Cutler and the Bears offense. So they didn't go nuts, but they did enough to get us in the money. As we discussed yesterday, we were in 7 different heads up matches. We won 5 of them. So 4 we had in hand, 5 we were just down a handful of points, and we got enough from Wilson and Bennett to win, and then 2 we got blown out in. So a 5-2 record on heads ups is obviously something that you'll take every single day. So with the 5-2 record in the heads ups and the min cash in the GPP, we made, let's see here, I'm looking at it right now. We made $4 last night. So we are still down 6 from the original bankroll, but the bankroll is back up to $94. So we have $9.40 to play with tonight. Obviously we'll probably just put $9 of it in play because I don't know how we're going to do 40 cents. So we'll do $9 tonight, and what we have is some NBA action. So here is the NBA slate for tonight. There's 6 games on tap. There's a couple of high totals here. This could be a pretty interesting night. I have not started my research just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log off here and wait a few hours as some of the news comes out. And what we'll do in the second part of this video is we will actually go through the NBA research. We will look at the Vegas lines together. We'll check the injury updates, and we'll construct the lineup for tonight. So 6 games on the docket. I'm excited about this one. NBA is right up my alley. So the second half of this video might be a little longer because we're actually going to go through the entire process. So stay tuned for that, but the bankroll is finally trending upwards after the second day of results. So hopefully, maybe we can get a big night tonight and get back over that $100 that we started with. So I will talk to everybody soon. See ya. Now 4:30 p.m. on the East Coast, so we are 2.5 hours before these 7 o'clock games start in the NBA. So I would usually like to wait longer. I don't really start constructing my lineups until probably an hour before the contests start for NBA, just because there is so much late information that comes out as far as game time decisions go. But I want to make sure I get this video out before those games, so we're gonna go through it with what we know right now at 4:30. Okay, so when we're going through what we're looking for and how we're going to define different players to put into our lineups, the first thing that I always do every single day is check the Vegas lines. And to be quite honest with you, Vegas is really, really good. You don't see casinos go out of business a lot, and sports books tend to make a lot of money because they're so good at setting lines. And what they say is going to happen in terms of the spread and the total, I believe it. Like if you made me put money on an exact number on a line, I would just put whatever Vegas says. So they're really really good. So that's always the first place to start. And what I'm looking for is just information. Okay. As we go through this, I'll have my projections. I'll have the Vegas lines. I'll have um, the depth charts and the injury reports, and none of that is just set in stone for me. It's a very fluid situation. You take in all the information that you can to make the best decisions. So I start with these Vegas lines. So there's only 6 games tonight, and you can see here. So we'll just start at the top. The Timberwolves and the Wizards is a 12.5 point spread, and also I'm on 5 dimes because there are a lot of injuries tonight, and Bovada doesn't have all the games on the board yet. I think we're still waiting to hear. Dwayne Wade, as of this moment, is still questionable for tonight, so the Heat game wasn't on the board there. So I'm on 5 dimes to because they've got the lineups. They have the line out no matter what. So as we go through this here, let's look. So the Wizards are a 12.5 point favorite. So basically anything in double digits kind of is this like this blowout alert, right? Where it's like this game could be a blowout. If you start John Wall tonight, he might only play 3 quarters. These are all the arguments that you normally hear to avoid games with big spreads or double digit spreads. I don't I'm on the fence on this one. I don't really buy into it. Yeah, it killed me last night. So it killed me last night with Michael Carter Williams and Rajon Rondo. Had him in the same lineup, and that game was out of hand, and they just didn't play a lot. And C.J. Watson didn't play a lot in that game because the Pacers were blowing out the Lakers. So it can hurt you, but the counter argument to that is if the Wizards blow out the Timberwolves in 3 quarters, John Wall is gonna get his. Like there's been plenty of games where earlier in the season I had James Harden and they were something like 12 point favorites, and I avoided Harden. He ended up only playing 3 quarters, but he had 60 fantasy points in the process. I mean, the reason that it's a blowout is because the team that's doing the blowing out is having a great game, and guys are producing and putting up big numbers. So to me, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. I'm not going to avoid a game just because of that line, just because I think it might be a blowout. It's just one factor in the whole process. So keep that in mind as we go here. Now, so there's really only two. We'll stay logged in. There's really only two that kind of are close to that blowout range, and it's the Wizards game and it's the Pelicans game. So I'm assuming this line is with Anthony Davis in. I can't imagine they'd have an old lineup here because the news about Anthony Davis playing tonight came out a couple hours ago. So this is the new and updated line for the Pelicans game. So those would be the two that you'd be like, okay, if it was a toss-up and everything was equal, maybe I'll avoid the player in these blowout type situations. Now, the flip side to this is also something like if Minnesota gets blown out tonight, the guys like Shabazz Muhammad, who normally might play, say they play 20 minutes, might play 26 or 28 minutes tonight because they're in with the second unit, and now they're playing the rest of the time that the starters are not. So you can almost counteract this. It's a little risky to bank on a blowout in that situation, but just know that the second team for these games might have the opportunity to have more minutes, so they might have a higher upside. So that's the flip side to the blowout argument as well. So keep that all in mind because obviously if starters are coming out and sitting in the third quarter, guys that normally wouldn't be playing the fourth quarter are in there playing. So don't forget that part too. Okay, so those are really the only two that stand out as far as this might be blowout potential. But what you also want to look at is the total points here. And sometimes you see, usually with like the Clippers or a bunch of teams that have fast paces, that they might get up over 210, get in the 212 range. That's a pretty big total. A couple of these, like Brooklyn, Miami, is 183 tonight. That's a really low total. To me, that says there's not going to be a lot of scoring. This might be a game that, again, if all things were equal, you might want to avoid players in this game. So that's what I'm looking for. When you've got a 183 line in Brooklyn, Miami, but a 206 line in Sacramento, OKC, that's a big difference. That's 23 points. So that can, 23 points spread out over your players with assists and rebounds can really make a difference in a matchup. And what most sites do, but Five Dimes has it nice and handy here, is it gives you the team lines. So I mean, it's pretty simple. They're projecting 202 and a half points for the Wizards Timberwolves game, with 107 and a half of them coming from the Wizards. So that's a pretty big total. If you have John Wall and they score 107 and a half points, you think he's going to get his. So this is all the things that I'm looking for here. Look at this. We'll get to Miami. I don't know who's going to score for them tonight. And clearly Vegas doesn't know either at 87 and a half, but we'll get to them. So this is always the first step. This just kind of paints a little picture of something predictive, something that might happen tonight in the NBA. So this is a really good place to start. The second place I'm going to go is to the injuries. So I know the games that are probably going to have a ton of points being scored. I know the games that are probably going to have few points being scored. So now I want to know the players that are going to be doing that. So I'm looking to see who's in and who's out for tonight. And again, a lot of these decisions don't come until closer to game time. But for right now, I just have a list here. David Lee is out. Brooke Lopez is out. DeMarcus Cousins is out. Andrew Bogut is out. So if a player is out, someone else is going to step up and have to play his minutes. So this is where I would just go through and look through the different teams for tonight. And this is on Roto World, and they have little S's for sidelined against the players who are not going to play tonight, or there's any indication that he might not play tonight. So, for example, here's Brooklyn versus Charlotte. Mears is not going to play tonight, okay? And it looks like he has a hip pointer, and he's been ruled out pretty quickly. So here it is. Roto World does this nice for you. Who's going to step up? Alan Anderson, Sergei Karasov, and Bojan Bogdanovic. I like saying that name. So there's always going to be value here. It's not as much because he, I'm not sure how many minutes he gets on a nightly basis, but it's not as many as Garnett would normally get. But there's always going to be somebody who's going to step up in the stead of the player who's out. So the big one for tonight is that Anthony Davis is playing. Anthony Davis, there was some speculation that he was going to be out tonight. He is not. It's been announced that he's going to play. Which, looking at this, I was licking my chops getting ready to run Ryan Anderson out there. I thought Tyreek Evans could have a big night. I thought that Drew Holiday could have a bigger than usual night. And I wouldn't have to worry about fading Anthony Davis. And I mean, I love the guy, so I want to see him play. But, it was a shame because I was so excited to actually, plug those guys in there for some good value. So that all goes away. But the team that's decimated the most right now is Miami. So if you look at this, it looks like Granger is, let's see what it is. Oh, their site's messing around. So he did not shoot around this morning, and they have him listed as questionable. But we already know that Josh McRoberts is out. Chris Bosh is out. Dwayne Wade is also questionable. So, I mean, if you look at this, Shabazz Napier, Danny Granger, they're both sick. Dwayne Wade's sick. Roberts and Bosh are definitely out. So, who's going to suit up for the Heat tonight? That's the big question, and that is where I want to start my my lineups. So I'm looking for value plays that are probably must plays. So for the Heat, Norris Cole is probably a big one. So Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers with if Napier and Wade are both out. So let's be clear here. If they're both out, as of right now, they're both questionable. If they both get ruled out, you got to think that Cole and Chalmers are both going to be pretty decent plays. With Bosch and McRoberts out, someone from down here has got to step up. Udonis Haslam, that's a scary thought to be rostering him. Chris Anderson, I don't really trust, but Sean Williams might be a guy that we could roster. So, though I haven't pulled up their salaries yet, but I know that all those guys are pretty cheap and we could get away with it. So, let's pull up DraftKings right here and just start plugging guys in and see what happens. So, let's look at Norris Cole. And this is all information that is available to everyone. I'm not doing anything, secretive here. I'm not doing anything special that I'm paying for. All this information is available to you. You just need to learn how to aggregate it and build your lineups. So if you look at Norris Cole, this was 2 nights ago. He played 40 minutes. So since basically everyone was out, he ended up playing nearly the entire game. And he didn't really shoot that well. 3 of 10 from the field. He only had 10 points, which I guess for Norris Cole is a pretty good night. But, he didn't go crazy filling up the stat sheet. But just with the sheer number of minutes, he put up 31 fantasy points. And here's the kicker. He's $3,500. So really, if he scores 20 fantasy points tonight, that's awesome. That's over 6 times value. Just 20 points would be perfect from Norris Cole tonight. 2 nights ago, he scored 31, 17, 29, 21. So, when getting opportunity, he's putting up enough points to be valuable to you. So, he needs to be plugged in. I imagine if and when, this is also assuming Dwayne Wade, he's probably a pretty good play either way, but I love him if Dwayne Wade's out. So, assuming Dwayne Wade doesn't play, I'm rolling Norris Cole out in basically every single lineup. Okay. Now, I also talked about who else could benefit in Miami, and we mentioned Sean Williams. So, again, 3,500, you have to love that. I love to look at the game logs to see. Now, he is a little riskier because of he can play 28 minutes and only scored 9 fantasy points. He was basically invisible against Chicago. I don't know if that's going to be possible tonight. I just think that if they're as short-handed as we think they're going to be, it's going to be really difficult not to play Sean Williams. He's going to play a ton of minutes. I don't know who else they're going to play. This is a game of opportunity. Someone is going to have to score points for them. Someone is going to get rebounds. Sean Williams is a pretty good candidate for that. Now let's look at before we plug him in. Oops. Let's look at Bogdanovic. So he's only 3,700. So Sean Williams was 3,500. Now we already know that. Where is he? Mirza. Is he questionable or is he out? Let me confirm this. 1 second. I've got conflicting reports here. Okay. Latest report as of... Oh, that was an old report. Okay. He's questionable tonight. So we'll have to hear about this. But if Mirza doesn't play, Bojan could be a good play. So you see, in only 19 minutes of action, he's able to put up decent points. So this is really... Here you go. And when he plays more, obviously he does better. 31 minutes, 24 points. 34 minutes, 24 points. Again, he would only need to score you not even 24 points to hit 6 times value. So that would be pretty interesting. I'd flip a coin. I would go with, assuming that Mirza and, well, we already know the front court for the Heat are out. I think it's a pretty good play. I would probably go with Sean Williams here. So I'm doing this off the bat. I've got, I'm not looking at any other lineups that I've already constructed or anything like that. So I'm going through this with you right now on the fly. Okay. So what we've done is we have plugged in 2 players who are extremely cheap in value, almost the minimum, that should see a ton of opportunity tonight. that's a good place to start. That's a really good place to start. So we've got $7,100 per player left. So I'm happy with where we're at. Um, I want to get some exposure to. So when there's only a handful of games on the board, I want to get exposure to. Like I want exposure to the Wizards, who are a favorite tonight. It's a high point total. They're expected to score a lot of points and do very well. So I want to get some exposure to that game. So let's just click the Washington game and scroll through here. John Wall, you love him at home. His home and road splits are awesome. He is a little risky at that high price because of the blowout factor, unfortunately. So that's a little risky, but I really do like John Wall. Um, I probably like Bradley Beal a lot. Let's see. Let's check his game logs. Okay. Yeah, he's been good lately. Okay. So he just absolutely has been filling up the stat sheet. 40 and 45 fantasy points in his last 2 games, and he only has a $6,000 price tag. So again, if we're going for 6 times value, he would need 36 points. You'd be happy with 30 because that's 5 times value. But if he got you 6 times value, you'd be loving it. So 36 points. He's done that in the last 2. He's, a little riskier. Now this, if I remember correctly, that was a blowout. Why he only played 17 minutes. I think that was a blowout, so he didn't have to play there. But he's going to get a lot of minutes, okay? This was an overtime game, but the last 3 games, well over 30 minutes a game. It's not the second night of a back-to-back. They played 2 nights ago, so I think that he can be expected to get that many minutes again in a game where there's going to be a lot of points scored, and he could easily hit his value. So really like Bradley Beal. Let's plug him in. Again, we're still below our average. He was below our average remaining salary per player, so that's good. We're building this here. This is a solid foundation of a ton of opportunity here. So these guys, assuming Dwayne Wade is out, should see massive minutes tonight. Okay, let's keep rolling. One guy. So I'm just thinking about this. The Golden State Memphis game is really interesting. So let's go back to the lines. 202.5 is tied for the second biggest line of the night. The biggest line is only 206. That's the OKC Sacramento game. So that's a pretty decent total. And it's only a 2.5 point spread, which would tell you that both teams are going to score a lot of points. 5 Dimes has both teams scoring over 100. So there's a lot of points in this game. So what I'm looking for is an opportunity. So who in this game would have the best opportunity? And Andrew Bogut is out for Golden State, which leads me to think that, let's get to that game, that Marc Gasol could be really, really good. Okay, so Marc Gasol is a really interesting player who I think has been, for the most part, flying under the radar, and he's just been super consistent and really, really good. So, I mean, does it get any more consistent than exactly 37 minutes in each of the last 3 games? So for 8,700, you're looking for 45 to 50 points from him. So in that range, 45, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's done it 6 times in the last 10. He's gone over 50 twice in that span. Just a really solid player. His floor is really high. This 121-point game, I think that was in a blowout against Miami, so not a lot of concern there. And I think with Andrew Bogut being out, there's just a ton of opportunity for him to exceed his value and increase his floor even more. So really looking for a big night from Marc Gasol. I think that is a good center to plug in here because center's a really tough position tonight. If you look at all the games, DeMarcus Cousins is out, Chris Bosh is out. Marc Gasol is the second most expensive center, and then it pretty much drops off after that, and you can't really count on too much from these guys. So I'm willing to pay up for Gasol. Now, before we move on, I do want to dabble into my projections really quick. So these are, again, afternoon minutes projections. So, these will change, but Rudy Gobert is my top value of the day. Okay, so 6.4%, and he is a really interesting play, and I wanted to talk about him while we were at center here. If you can't afford Marc Gasol, if you don't like Marc Gasol for some reason, I think Gobert could be really interesting. He's 5,000, so here he is. Really good lately. So for 5,000, we're looking for 25 to 30 points. Something that he's more than capable of doing. I really would like him more if Anthony Davis was out. Obviously, Anthony Davis is going to play, so he's a guy to keep an eye on and keep him on your radar moving forward. Tonight, I think he's interesting because he could see a lot of minutes, but again, I think it's a tough matchup underneath with AD. So I obviously like Marc Gasol more, but if you can't afford him, I think Gobert makes a decent play. Okay, so I want to continue to plug in different guys here, and it's really interesting. So when there's only 6 games on the slate, it's sometimes difficult to get a lot of matchups that you like or a lineup that you really, really enjoy. So I think we have a good start here. I just have a feeling, I've been scoping this out a little bit, and I just have a feeling that we're going to end up rostering Anthony Davis, which isn't going to make me too happy. But I want to continue to go here. Let's look at let's get a guard off the board. And I want some exposure to that late game, that Sacramento OKC game. Should be a lot of points there. I think Sacramento fired their coach, so this is the first game with their new coach. I think they could play a little inspired. I think that they can keep it close for a while. They can be pretty competitive. Just something intangible about this game that I really like. I shy away from Westbrook because he is so expensive, and looking down the list here, there aren't a ton of guys I love, but I would like some exposure to Sacramento. So I'm thinking Ben McLemore might be a nice play. He's been pretty good lately. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So the last 3 games, he's been over 23 points. His floor is a little lower than I would normally like, but this is the last game before DeMarcus Cousins comes back, so I think that he's going to start to lose value because I think they need him to score points now with Boogie out. So McLemore, this is kind of a last chance play where he doesn't need many points to hit value, and I think they could play really inspired basketball tonight. So I think there's opportunity there. I don't love it, but I do want to. I would prefer to have a little value here because look, if we don't put McLemore in here and we just look at the other guards, and we can go to all games, there's not a lot of guards I like tonight. I mean, I would like Evans and Holiday more if Davis was out, which they're not. Conley's coming off a career night, so his salary's been inflated, and you can't expect him to do that again. Dwayne Wade's sick. Ricky Rubio's out. Darren Williams is, almost 30 every single night, but not more than that. I could pay up for John Wall, but none of these really jump out at me. They really don't. So if none of them are exciting you up here, I think it's okay to go with more of a value play, which is Ben McLemore. So let's plug him in and keep rolling here. We can flip over to the forward position, and there are a couple guys. Obviously, Anthony Davis is a freak, but for 11,000, he's going to need at least 50 points, 55 points to make him worth it. Obviously, he can do that. I like Kevin Durant a lot, but I'm still concerned about the minutes restriction that he's on. If he was not on a minutes restriction tonight, I'd probably be plugging him into a lot of lineups because he is 7,000 less than Russell Westbrook, and obviously he's the reigning MVP, so he can just absolutely fill up the stat sheet. Keep going here. Derek Favors is questionable, and he's not going to play tonight. So Gobert is going to get the start at center, so there's another reason if you wanted to plug him in. That would be pretty good. Gordon Hayward, I think, could be nice tonight. His floor is a little too low for me. He's a 25 to 45 guy, which is, if he puts up 25 points, that's going to hurt. So I'll see if we have any better options here. Randolph could be really interesting. I was actually having some internet issues here, so I was able to get a lineup in, and it's this lineup that you see right here. So let's talk about it. So where I left off is we had Gasol in the lineup. We had Ben McLemore. I was just saying that I think Luol Deng could be a very interesting play because it's completely decimated in the front court for the Miami Heat. So I think he could be a really good play tonight if you could fit him in. Going back, I really enjoy Shabazz Muhammad as a value play. He's been really good with the minutes lately. If you see, he's coming off a 40-point night, which I don't expect again. But even if he scores you 24, that's 6 times his value, basically. So it has been really solid lately. The Timberwolves are battling a lot of injuries, so I expect a lot of minutes from Muhammad tonight, and I think he can easily produce. So that's the thought process there. What I ended up doing was, and sorry I'm going through this so quickly. I kind of got messed up. I wanted to talk about this more in depth, but I'll go to something different here. I ended up plugging in Anthony Davis and Monte Ellis, and you know what Anthony Davis is, so let's talk about Monte Ellis, who you need at least 40 points from tonight. And the New York Knicks are so bad and really bad at defending the shooting guard that I think this is a really good situation for Monte Ellis to be in. He's basically a 35 to 45 a night guy. He's not going to go off and score 60, but I'd be shocked if he scored anything less than 35. So I think he's a really safe play. But my main point was this was a really difficult night as far as getting a lineup I liked. I'm okay with this lineup, but a lot of nights I love my lineups. I just felt like I couldn't pass on Anthony Davis and get value at the other positions that I wanted to. I actually liked a lot of the lower priced guys than the middle priced guys, so I was stuck in a situation where I didn't want to move off of Norris Cole. I didn't want to move off of Ben McLemore. I wasn't able to concede those guys. So what it ended up doing actually was giving me the ability to pay up for Anthony Davis. So hoping it's one of these big Anthony Davis nights. And this will go into one $2 GPP and 7 $1 heads ups, which will be the $9, which is 10% of the $94 bankroll that we have going tonight. So keep an eye on this lineup. But one thing I did want to touch on, and we can do it again tomorrow for the NBA, but so sorry about this. Kind of got a little rushed and crunched on time. But I want to introduce the Fantasy Cruncher, and this is a pretty interesting tool. If you haven't used it, I suggest you at least check it out. They do their own projections, and it can create optimal lineups. But what I like to do is I like to update my own projections, which this site lets you do, and then it'll let you run your optimal lineup from your own projections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause real quick. I'm going to upload my projections, and we'll come back and we'll see what it says. Okay? We're back. So what I did is I just uploaded my projections in here. So these are all my custom numbers, not the numbers from Fantasy Cruncher or from NumberFire or anywhere else like that. And what this allows you to do is you can lock in players. So you can say, give me the optimal lineup with Anthony Davis. You can say, get rid of Anthony Davis. You can remove guys. You can lock guys in. So it's pretty interesting. I'm not going to lock anybody in or out because I just like to get a baseline of what's going on here. So all I need is really the top 3 teams. Basically, they're all going to be the same. There's probably going to be one player apart. So I'm just going to run the top 3 teams here. And using my projections, it looks like 277.2 is the highest I can get. And this is just, wow, look at this. massive Memphis Golden State. So what does that tell you? A ton of points are going to be scored. It's got Steph Curry, it's got Dirk, it's got Gasol, it's got Gobert as the utility player. This is the first time I'm seeing this Zach Randolph. I mean, this is just a complete stack of that game. So what I use this for is just to kind of give me a baseline. This would be way too much exposure to one game for me. I know there's only 6 games going on, but to have all but 2 players be from the same game is just way too much exposure. I wouldn't want it. So what I could do is I could start, knocking these guys out and saying, I don't want Courtney Lee, I don't want Bino, I don't want Dirk, and I think I can just rerun it here. Yeah, there we go. Now I'll get Steph Curry, Darren Collison, so I'll get a little more coverage as far as the different teams go, but this is just a really good way to get a baseline for tonight. So you don't need to put in your own projections to use this site. It's pretty cool. What they'll do is you can use their highest average. So based on their average points, here's the 3 top teams tonight. Based on averages, it's 254. They use standard deviation, so you can get guys with the highest floors and the highest ceilings. So if you want a high floor, that's a pretty interesting team. So there's your high floor team. If you want to use this in 50-50 or heads up matches, you can go with the highest ceiling. If you want to try to win a GPP, I don't know how they calculate this. I'm assuming it's just their best game. So I'm assuming what this is taking is all of these players' best games and adding them up and keeping you under 50,000 because nobody's going to score 438 points tonight. So it's not perfect, but it gives you an idea of who the high floor and high ceiling guys are. It's actually not great. I would calculate that a little differently if I were them, but that's pretty good. And it's just, again, one spoke of the wheel, so to speak, and it's just something that I'll do to see if there's anybody that I missed, because sometimes you plug it in here and it's usually the lower price guys that are projected for 18 or 20 points and they cost the minimum, and they're really good to fit in your lineup. So sorry we got a little messed up today. I'll try to correct that for tomorrow and get it out a little earlier. But there it is. We are rolling $9 into some games tonight with the lineup that we walked through. So best of luck to us, and I'll be back tomorrow with some more NBA. See ya.